Look, Mattel, Target, WWE Legends, right? I love this line, I do. I love almost every figure you put into it, but I want you to really think about what this wave has been, okay? I want you to think about what you've put into this new assortment. You got Mr. Perfect, right? Everyone loves Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect doesn't get enough figures. This is a great figure to include. But, oh, wait, real quick. We need to get another $1 Million Man. Now, keep in mind, we've already had a Legends $1 Million Man. We've already had a $1 Million Man in this green suit, even in the Legends line. But nah, it's fine. Let's get $1 Million Man. This time we'll have Old Man Face. That way we can recreate him ripping off his parishioners. That's great. Oh, wait a minute. Here. Oi, Vince, let me tell you about my monster hog, and then I'm gonna form NXT in a few years. Don't get me wrong, I like Triple H, but come on. We have enough Triple H's, too. Oh, but it's okay, because we have the sleeper hit of the line. Sleeper hit, because it puts everyone the fuck to sleep. Greg the Hammer Valentine in his rhythm and blues gear. Again, I'm sure people are into this. I'm kind of into it, but that's not fucking exciting. Look at this. It looks like your grandma. It looks like your grandma really got into Elvis before she, fucking killed over from excitement. There you go. Oh, but we do have a variant. We have a variant for this wave. What's the variant? Oh, it's the fucking rip-off Preacher again. In a white suit this time. Well, that's great. In the Legends line, in this, collection, we now have a black suit $1 Million Man, green suit $1 Million Man, silver suit $1 Million Man, and white suit $1 Million Man. All these flavors of $1 Million Man, all in one toy line. That's great. Look, the point is, I got all of them. The only one we're reviewing is Mr. Perfect. And yeah, Mr. Perfect also should have had the variant. Fuck you. So yeah, it turns out I'm working through some stuff. Mr. Perfect. Out of nowhere, over these past 2 or 3 years, I've realized Mr. Perfect is one of my favorite wrestlers ever. And I adore every figure we get of the guy. This is going to be our first modern Legends Mr. Perfect with the double jointed elbows and the pinless joints. It looks phenomenal. You can look on the box, you have a really good painting of Mr. Perfect. Here on the back, you have title as Intercontinental Champion, which, to be fair, I think that actually is the only other title. I don't think he was ever a tag team champion. He was definitely never a world champion. I don't think he ever had any belts in WCW, so yeah, that's pretty much all he had, wasn't it? But here, nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody. He was the perfect WWE superstar with the perfect amount of technical ability and athleticism. Everything he did was perfect, from bowling 300 to throwing himself a touchdown. For a while, he had the perfect unbeaten record in WWE. Why? Because he's absolutely perfect. God damn, that's so corny, but it's great. It's wonderful, even. Got the same painting over here. And of course, we got the figure right here. Looks phenomenal. I can already see something that I think is going to be a touch disappointing for me personally, but let's just get into the figure, because like I said, if the figures in this wave were people at a bar, Mr. Perfect's totally the one you'd want to hang out with, and the other 4 are the fucking creeps who you have to keep your eyes on because you're never too sure where they are, and you're kind of worried that they're going to try to find their way over to everyone else's drinks. Getting Mr. Perfect out of the box, and this is a very well done figure. It is a figure that had some very weird decisions made, though, and the first one I'd point out really is choice of attire. So, we've gone with the yellow singlet. To be fair, that makes sense. The yellow singlet is one of his most famous singlets. If you're a big fan of the Hasbro line, this is the singlet that they used for his first figure. That said, for me personally, and I think for most people out there, when you think Mr. Perfect, you think the blue singlet. And if I had to choose between what costume to get for this, the first Mr. Perfect figure we've had in the Legends line for a pretty long time, I would have wanted the blue. I feel like more people are after that costume. Now, to be fair, at this point, we've gone all the singlets in the Legends line. We've had green singlet, black singlet, yellow singlet, orange singlet, blue singlet. I still think that for this figure, you should have gone blue, just because we don't get many Mr. Perfects. Every Mr. Perfect that comes out is guaranteed to be a lot of collectors' first Mr. Perfect in their collection. So I think you could have afforded to give the more iconic look. That said, the yellow is still very high up in a lot of people's memories and estimations. Now we get to the thing that I think is an even bigger problem. When the promo materials came out, this looked like it was going to be a cloth singlet. And I was so excited for that cloth singlet. And I was thinking oh, I bet it's going to be a 2-in-1 figure. You could take it off, he's going to look like the AWA Mr. Perfect with the trunks. But no, we get this, and it's this Polly Pocket, material. It's the rubber. You can see it's already warped itself out of the package, so it looks really bad up here on the shoulder. There's not many things you can do to fix that, aside from kind of try to hide it with the hair. I guess you could try to take this off. I wouldn't personally, just because I think you would rip it doing so. It's a kind of a letdown, because I was really thinking we're going to get that cloth singlet, and even if it's not the right singlet, I think of that iconic SummerSlam moment where Bret Hart ripped his singlet off. I was like, we could recreate that with the figures. But no, we instead get a very nice looking Mr. Perfect, don't get me wrong, very trim, looks really good. It looks just like the singlet did in real life. I would have preferred the cloth though, I'll be honest. And the head sculpt came out well though. Definitely captures Mr. Perfect's face. I do wish they went for a different expression, maybe a smirk or even maybe a more stoic look. This one, he looks a little confused. Like Bret Hart just said something and it's taken a second for Mr. Perfect to catch on. Also, you can see they've kind of painted the hair as well as sculpted it, which gives a weird, difference in hair color. But that's underneath my lights. To the naked eye, it really doesn't show up that badly. Other than that, the body itself is good. You, of course, have ball joint at the head, universal at the shoulder, uppercut at the arm, double jointed elbow, universal at the wrist. You have an ab crunch in here, swivel at the waist, universal at the hip, thigh cut, double jointed knee, and then, of course, down here you have a little bit of a rock in the ankle. So definitely an articulated Mr. Perfect, the most articulated Mr. Perfect we've ever got. But especially coming off the heels of that just absolutely superb Superstars Mr. Perfect that had so many accessories and little gimmicks, this one's a bit of a letdown for me, I'm afraid. We do at least have a decent run of accessories, starting with the Intercontinental Championship belt. Looks great, though we have had that belt many times. We have 2 closed fists, we have 2 pointer hands, and we do have 2 grippy hands, just to show I do have the other fist here as well. And then, of course, you get the towel. This is literally just the Superstars towel. It looked great there because it was kind of in scale. Here, it's a little short and weird, but, it can still kind of work. I guess it's more of like a yoga towel or like a hand cloth. I don't know. It seems very thin for a properly scaled human being. But overall, it's a case where they've definitely hit all the check marks, but you can see the smudge from where they had to change their answers last minute, you got there, but I think because you got there at the last second, a few of these accessories, some of the decisions with the figure, they're good decisions if there had been more thought and care put into them, Overall, it leads to this Mr. Perfect kind of paling in comparison to the other 2 Mr. Perfects I got this year. It's not this Mr. Perfect's fault that the Superstars Mr. Perfect is the best figure in that line. It is not this Mr. Perfect's fault that the Consultant Mr. Perfect was a really good Build-A-Figure for the SummerSlam wave. It's just unfortunate that we are getting more Mr. Perfect this year than we've gotten in years from WWE and Mattel. And we got 3 good figures, but the one that I think most people would have wanted, which is ring attire, elite scaled Mr. Perfect, is the one that comes in 3rd in this contest. I just wish there was a little bit more anything. The cloth singlet, a better head sculpt, more interesting accessories, anything. Hell, make it into a blue singlet. At least then I could be like, well, at least this is the definitive take on Mr. Perfect for me, even if there's some shortcomings with the figure. But the way it is now, unfortunately, it's just not perfect. Still, he's the most exciting figure in this fucking wave. And no, I'm not reviewing any of these next.